Thank you. I couldn't delete fast enough to get back to wherever that original email was.
Good evening. Welcome to the Mountain View Fire Community Workshop number 8. My name is Justin Caparuso and I am with Public Information with Mono County. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We have got a little bit of a longer agenda, so appreciate you taking the time to be with us this evening. We hope to address a lot of your questions that you may have. There is a Q&A function in Zoom down at the bottom of your screen if you're watching on Zoom, and you can put your questions in there. We will address those at the end. There's also a chat function, and we'll be putting answers and links in the chat function, so be sure to check that as well. For those watching on Facebook, you can simply enter your questions into the comment section and we'll be monitoring those. Thank you again for joining us, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to Supervisor John Peters.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mountain View Fire Community Workshop number 8. A lot of familiar faces on the screen tonight, and I wanted to just first introduce Barry Beck, our assessor. He hasn't been on any of these previous community workshops, so he's a new face. You guys probably all recognize. I'm just going to go from my top left and keep going. Justin Nalder with the EOC, Dina Wilson with the state, Louis Molina with the county environmental health, Michael Jones, community development, Bob Lawton, CAO, Jason Davenport, building department, April Saul, community development, and then there's another April Saul. I don't know, you need to do a name change. I'm not sure who that is. It might be our Tom Perry. Is that Tom? Okay, it says you're April. Wendy Sugamura, Community Development Director, Mary Boer, who is with the EOC and one of the point people for the Mountain View Fire, holding office hours weekly in Walker. Justin Caparuso, always coordinating and in the background. And so with that, I'm just going to move right to the incident update with Justin. There's a lot to cover tonight, so we'll try to do it. Thank you all for attending. And again, put your questions in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll try to get to all of them tonight. Justin.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Peters, and good afternoon, everyone. We're approximately 5 months after the incident and into our recovery efforts. Things are moving right along. There's a lot of activity on the ground. I could say that we're approximately 75% through the remediation efforts, and the state can correct me if I'm off on that, but for those of you who go onto the portal and look at it, you can see their numbers. They're very good about updating those daily. You can see which aspect and where you're at in the timeline and in which phase. So keep an eye on that. The EOC has developed mission objectives. And I can tell you in a 3-stage process, we're into the 3rd stage. So this is kind of the tail end of the purpose for the EOC, and hopefully handing things back off to where everyone can kind of get back on their feet and start rebuilding or do what you have plans for out there. We did run into a few things with irrigation. As you know, it's irrigation season, people are growing. Thankfully, we've mitigated those irrigation problem areas and moving forward with that respect. We've got a main focus on providing some intermediate housing. Many of you will remember that we were working diligently to provide some trailers for selected families that were in need. I'm happy to report that we're finalizing that agreement as we speak, and we may see trailers on their way up to us as soon as end of the week, potentially. So those will be filtering in somewhat of a random fashion. The way that they're staged, it'll just be the easiest access coming up first. So for those of you who are on the list, you can expect to be contacted soon. In order for that to take place, though, once they get up here, we have decided to contract with a cleaning service so that they're turnkey ready when we hand them off. You won't have to go in and sweep the floors and clean the cabinets. This will be set to go. With regard to the landfill and operations up there, I can report that as of next week, end of next week, we'll have our contractors out doing the final install for solar and interconnect for the scale. I know a lot of you will be happy about that. We can kind of shift away from the incoming volume measurements and go back to our regular weighted measurements on those. Into some representation, we have the Emergency Operations Center has somewhat demobilized. However, Mary Boer is still making a presence at the Senior Center and offering office hours, as Supervisor Peters mentioned. Today, she was there from 12 to 2. On Thursday, she'll be there from 4:30 to 6:30. And so next week, there's going to be a similar schedule for anyone who wants to go and ask her questions in person or get some direction on where to find information. That will be available. And I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more later when we get to the section with community development and Michael Jones, but we do have office hours and somebody present Monday, Wednesday, Friday in Bridgeport. That's kind of a closer avenue, again, for folks who may want to see somebody in person. May 15th, Nevada Resiliency Project is hosting another workshop. That'll be available with details online. And I think I'll go ahead and wrap up the incident update there. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Dina and Lewis.
My apologies, I couldn't get off mute fast enough. I'm not sure if Lewis wanted to go first or myself.
Go ahead, Dina, and I can follow up after you. I think you have got more of the details than I do of what happens up to today.
Great, thanks, Lewis. So just to give the community an update, we have cleared 76 properties thus far from debris removal. That means debris up off the ground. And we have begun to return those properties to the homeowners and to their county starting today. We have at least the initial 3 with more coming in the next couple of days to a week. We've also begun the hazard tree assessments in the areas where that is eligible. So that's exciting news to help in the rebuilding and recovery efforts for the community. So looking forward to seeing that progression. As we are gearing towards the end of the debris removal aspect, which just means just debris off the ground. There's still, as we mentioned, I believe in the last community meeting, there are still a couple of different phases. So we want to remind the community members that just because you see the debris removed on your property doesn't mean the process has been complete. We still have soil sampling, erosion control, tree assessment, and felling where appropriate, and then the final sign off to certify the property's been cleaned by the state to return to the county. So just a reminder for homeowners not to schedule any contracted work on their properties until we've actually been able to return that to the county and the county's return that to the property owner. But definitely a step in the right direction. So we are very excited about the progress that we have made thus far, and we look to complete the debris removal activities in just the next couple of weeks. And I'll stand by for any questions. Over to you, Lewis.
Dina, real quick, I just wanted to verify that we had 1 property turned back over to the county. Is that right?
We have 3.
We have 3 of them. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
We have 3, and I believe we have potentially an additional 9 that are going to come in the rest of this week.
Thank you. This is Louis Molina. I don't have a lot to add. I'll just say that, we've just been working with Cal OES and the crews out there to follow up on any questions. There's every once in a while, there's a property with some specific details or some issues that pop up. And that's kind of what we're doing now, is just kind of rounding up any additional information and trying to finalize any problems that we might find out there, or that the contracting crews are finding out there, and get them the information that they need. So really, we are in the final stages of the debris removal. And as others have mentioned, as Dina mentioned, we've got 3 ready to be signed off, and others coming now, or they've already been signed off. So I think we're just going to be continuing in that vein, and kind of finalizing the remaining properties and getting those properties back online for the property owners to move back on and do what they need to do to rebuild their lives and get their properties back in order. So I'll be happy to answer any questions when we're done here as well.
Thank you, Louis. Yeah, I would like, I don't know who's going to touch a little bit more on the trailer, sort of the hookups, like what happens when the trailer gets there, what's the role of environmental health and community development. Maybe Mary will cover that in her report, the temporary housing update. So, but let's keep moving.
I'll be happy to add in on that as well.
Okay. And let's move to the community development update. So the building and planning update, April, Tom, and Jason, in no particular order.
I'll go ahead and lead that off if I could tonight. So in the building world, we're getting a lot of calls, more and more inquiries about, contractors, the process, manufactured homes, that kind of stuff. We're getting a lot of questions about, underground or overhead power lines, that kind of thing. So what we've been working on, we've been pretty busy lately with this, and trying to wrap up this week is our frequently asked question sheet, and also a contact list for contractors. With the frequently asked question document, it's come to our attention that, we're looking at probably a lot of folks wanting to do manufactured homes up in Walker. This is what I'm hearing from residents and from county staff and the like. And I think it'd be a good time to just make a point that we're not promoting or endorsing manufactured homes. We don't have a dog in the fight, whether you do a man home or a stick-built home or any other material, straw bale or whatever, go for it. But we are just hearing that there's gonna be a lot of folks probably going the manufactured home route. So it just seemed to make sense that we would put more pertinent information on this document. And I think that'd be doing it right if we had more information on this document relative to manufactured homes. So some of the stuff that we're working on, and by the way, I got to get all this through HCD. They're a state agency, Housing and Community Development. They're not an easy group to get through to. When you do, oftentimes they refer you to another person. Then that person refers you to another person. So it's been kind of a bouncing around some with these folks, but I finally was able to get a hold of the right person who tomorrow is going to give me the information that I'm needing to complete this document. And that information, just so you know, are a couple things. One, the state has pre-engineered prescribed foundations for manufactured homes that will take both vertical load and also horizontal load for the Walker area. They calc out for the forces we're going to get in Walker. I'm expecting to get those designs sent to me tomorrow from my contact at HCD. The goal is to have a little blurb on the fact sheet with a link that'll take people right to these foundations. They seem to think it will save money for people who want to use these designs, as opposed to maybe paying extra for an engineer or somebody to prepare a foundation design. So I think it could be a definite asset for those who want to go the manufactured home route. Again, I'm expecting to get that information tomorrow, and I want to put that on our fact sheet. Included in that also is there might be some folks that want to put an existing manufactured home where their house once stood, instead of buying a brand new one. I foresee maybe some people wanting to do that. Similarly, I'm getting information from HCD about how they have prescribed installation instructions for existing manufactured homes. if someone can't find the original installation manual, which they may not be able to do because these things could be kind of old. If they do, they only go up to 30 pounds a square foot for snow load. We're at 38. So there's a process where they could maybe build like a freestanding structure around it, and they could still use the foundation system and also the prescribed installation instructions, which I think would save people a pretty good amount of time and money. So that information I'm expecting to get tomorrow, and I want to put that into the fact sheet as well this week. I would say for the folks that want to reuse an existing manufactured home, one thing's very clear to me, and this probably makes sense because we're in a fire recovery mode in a fire area, but manufactured homes now have to meet what's known as WUI, W-U-I, that's Wildland Urban Interface. That's essentially fire resistant construction on the outside of the coach. If an existing manufactured home coach doesn't have that, they'll have to retrofit the outside of the building to make it conform to the fire resistant standards. For any modification people do to a manufactured home, whether it be WUI or otherwise, they have to get a permit through HCD. So I would recommend, just based on this, that people go the new manufactured home route if they're going to go manufactured homes, but there will be alternatives for people to use existing ones if they want. And that's what we're putting some information together on that front as well. On the contractor contact list, we are in the process of finalizing putting manufactured home contractors, licensed C47 contractors. I think that's going to be good information for folks to have on there. Again, I'm trying to wrap that up this week as well. And a big deal here, I talked to one manufacturer of manufactured homes last week. I've talked to a few other folks. I'm hearing across the board that the manufacturers of manufactured homes are a good 6 to 10 months out from the time they get an order in. And that if you factor that in the mix, you know, they could be waiting a while for these things because they're just slammed. It's very busy. There's a high demand for them already. So I took the liberty of talking to somebody at Clayton Homes. Clayton Homes does a lot of manufactured homes installations in the area. I talked to a lady by the name of Kathy Julius, and they're saying they're about 9 months out for cash customers. If you need a loan, they're more like about a year out from when you place the order to when you get the unit. They need a 20% down in order to order the unit to start with. So some folks may not be able to order this thing until they get their insurance proceeds, and then it's going to take anywhere from 9 to 12, 6 to 10 months or so out from that to get. But if it's of interest, I thought I'd throw this out there. Clayton Homes, have done seminars, educational seminars to the public before about their products and options. Kathy offered to do that for Mono County residents and for staff if anyone was interested in that kind of informational presentation from Clayton Homes on their products and the ins and outs. So that's something that's out there that is available if folks want to, if they want to do that. And then the only other thing I'm going to mention right now is that for those people that want to keep their existing foundation, who opt out of the state program and they want to keep their foundation because they're thinking about building on it, or at least want to look into it, Sierra Geotechnical Services Incorporated, a Mammoth-based firm, is doing those special inspections on foundations with in-house engineer staff to stamp the report if the foundation passes muster from an engineering standpoint. And that'd be Joe Adler you'd want to talk to for that, for those folks that want to be there. So that's pretty much my report right now. Let me know if you have any questions or anything like that, but that's kind of where things are at right now in the building department.
Thanks, Tom.
Mhm.
I'll go ahead and jump in real quick on a couple of things. So I just wanted to reiterate that we do have office hours for planning and building staff, and we are helping to cover for Mary's business or office hours that are posted in the chat. We'll also post this in the chat. In addition, we're available by phone Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and then we also have staff in Bridgeport that rotate up in Bridgeport Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. So we have on-site in-person staff Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And again, we'll put this in the chat from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Except a lunch break from 12 to 1, I believe is the hour. So if there's any planning or building questions, please reach out to us. As Tom said, there's a lot of reoccurring questions we're getting. We do have a version of the frequently asked questions already posted, and that is pretty up to date. As Tom said, we're just trying to add a little bit more information about the manufactured homes from Housing Community Development State Agency. So if you're doing a stick built or have other questions about power reconnects, we'll be talking a little bit more about that in the presentation, but a lot of that information is already in those frequently asked questions. So please use that as a resource and certainly reach out to us with any questions. I'll save the planning portion of the temporary emergency dwelling units and the trailers for that update, Mary, unless you want me to cover that now. But the other item is just that we really encourage folks to try and work with professional designers and contractors. We know that this is a difficult and overwhelming process, and we're here to help, but we can't design your project for you. So please reach out with questions and use this as a resource. And that's all for tonight.
Thank you, April. And just a reminder that if folks are talking to others that are not able to be on live, this is recorded and it can be viewed at any time on our website. So there's a lot of good information already. I'm sure we're going to hear more. Jason, are you going to add in on this update?
Actually, John, Tom pretty much covered anything I would have talked about, but Michael Jones, our permit tech, is here to give a little presentation and tutorial on the permitting process for the power restoration and minor permits, and he'll be much more informative than I will be right now.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to acknowledge and let everybody know and wanted to thank Jason and Justin for going down to Los Angeles and inspecting trailers. And it was a very tedious and labor-intensive job. So thank you guys for doing that. And we'll keep moving on. And Michael, you want to give your presentation?
Sure. Thanks so much, Supervisor Peters. All right, I'm going to go ahead and try and do a share screen here with my presentation. All right. So firstly, my name is Michael Jones. I'm the permit tech for Mono County. I'm available at any of the extensions, 1800, 1823, 1825 here at the county, to help in any way possible. And essentially, I'm going to be breaking down the over-the-counter permit process. So we have three different kinds of permits in Mono County. We have over-the-counters, which are essentially one inspection. Then we have a minor and a major. The major is mainly reserved for single-family residences, and the minor for other structures like garages or utility things. So I'm just going to be focusing on over-the-counter right now. So this presentation is going to touch base on a couple of these items that we often see and try and provide some guidance and streamline the process for everyone. So mainly, this is the first page of the presentation. It lists things that over-the-counter permits are traditionally used for or issued for. So tonight, the main concern is new electrical service or re-energization. So as stated here, over-the-counter permits don't require the submission of construction documents traditionally, and they are, as the name states, over-the-counter and issued the same day upon presentation of a completed permit application. So traditionally, these permits are $130. As most of you know, Mono County has adopted a Mountain View Fire waiver for the fees. So after that is applied for people that have been victims of the fire, that will reduce these fee costs down to $2. Unfortunately, we were not able to waive the state fees. So those $2 are considered of California's state fees. So moving on in my presentation, a big thing that a lot of people do need to know, gets overlooked, is that Mono County does require business licenses for all contractors performing work in the county. So whether or not this is as an owner builder or whether or not this is as a licensed contractor, you do need to reach out to the tax collector's office. I've provided a little bit of a breakdown here. This is going to be the website, and I will do a little bit of a demonstration here. So here is the main page for Mono County. You will actually hover over government. Let me move this. Hover over government, and if you're looking for the treasurer tax collector, this will be the page here. So this will bring you to the tax collector page, some business.
Can you enlarge that, Michael? Can you enlarge this a little bit? At least on my screen, it's kind of.
Is that what, Supervisor Peters? Okay.
Michael, we're still seeing your one-page presentation, and we didn't switch when you switched screens.
Let's see here. Thanks, Justin. So I will just go back to the presentation and zoom in here.
Much better. Thank you.
Yeah. So essentially, when you come to the Mono County homepage, you'll hover over government and it'll drop down a list of selections. On the previous page, as we were talking about, mention to the tax collector and business licenses, that's going to be the treasurer tax collector page here. Everything else Mono County Community Development, you can access through this community development link right here. So I'll zoom back out and we'll kind of go into this next page. When you do click into the Mono County Community Development link, you will come to this page here. This is where all of the Mono County Community Development departments are listed here. If you're looking for a Mono County building permit application, you'll find it here through this drop down and then this permit application link here. And what that will do, it will bring you to a list of documents here. As I mentioned, there are 3 different kinds of documents. So you can see them here, the full, the minor, and then I've actually separated the over-the-counter building permit to kind of streamline the process for people. There's one here for owner builders and there's one here for licensed contractors. So if you decide to go owner builder, you will essentially complete every page in this link's application. And if you decide to use a contractor for your project, you'll complete all the pages found in this link here. Once again, those are listed here as live active links. So just kind of a breakdown of what an owner builder is, just to clarify for everyone. This is how the Contractor State Licensing Board defines owner builder. And once again, this document will be posted on the webpage for reference later as well. And I'm always open to field questions if anybody needs any further clarification. So these are kind of the conditions that apply here. Moving forward, I am going to break down the process for using a licensed contractor first. So I have, so I've highlighted all of the data entry fields that we do need filled in to be considered a complete permit application. And please be advised that we cannot begin the processing of these applications until these are fully completed. So once again, scope of work, project valuation, your job site address or assessor's parcel number, and then the associated information that will apply to the actual job being performed here. Things like the applicant, the actual owner of the property, and any contractors. And then obviously just a sign and date. And once again, we are in the licensed contractor application process. So this is going to be the actual declaration Mono County uses. It's called a licensed contractor declaration, as everyone sees. And we will need all of this information filled in. It can also be found on CSLB's website, the California State Contractor State Licensing Board, I'm sorry. So if you are curious whether or not somebody's license is active or looking for more details, that's always available through their website. The next page that we need completed when you're going to be using a licensed contractor is going to be their workers' compensation information. So California has a couple requirements based on what's going on. There are 3 different options here. We do need one of these initialed. So that is an option there if you do actually have the policy information. This is even further. And then this is more of a I shall not employ any person in any manner as to become subject to workers' compensation laws. And then just a basic signature and date on that one. And once again, I am available to break down this process if anyone has any specific questions. So the next application is going to be designed for people who want to go as owner builder. So things that are consistent with what owner builder's definition is. So pretty much the same here on the front page, except instead of the contractor, you're going to be checking owner builder here and filling in that information there, filling out your site information and job information, and then just signing and dating. The next form that is very specific to the owner builder process is going to be the owner builder declaration. We will need any box that is pertinent to your project. We will need those boxes checked and a signature and date here. The next page that we do need still completed if you decide to go as owner builder is going to be your workers' compensation declaration. You're welcome to fill out, initial anyone that's most pertinent. We usually see the bottom box initialed and signed off on for owner builders, but whatever is most applicable, please complete it in that fashion. The next page is going to be the notice to property owner. So this is another state form here that we do need completed for owner builders. It's mainly just a little more detail to demonstrate that all the people who want to proceed as owner builder do understand everything that is consistent with that process. So you will have your actual job site here. And then each of these boxes, you will need to read and initial each of these statements. It's very important that all of these are initialed and then signed at the bottom here. And then just a couple other things, the fire facts page here. Same thing on the building division's website. You'll see a Mountain View Fire Reentry packet link. There will be any documents that Mono County is working on will be entered here and made available to the public there. And then obviously the fire incident page, as most of you are familiar with. So once again, my name is Michael Jones. I'm the permit tech from Mono County. Happy to help in any way possible. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And I really appreciate everyone's time and patience and look forward to helping the community as much as possible. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Again, type in questions to the chat. I'm sure Mary is tracking those and we'll try to answer those, but let's try to get through the presentation before the questions are answered, unless anybody sees one particular that they want to address. Mary, go ahead.
Okay, interim housing. So we have sent an email out for all the trailer recipients for whom we have an email address, which is about 90% of them. We are finalizing, the board has approved the agreement with the city of LA to get the trailers up here. We're finalizing the transportation agreement. And as said before, we will possibly see trailers arrive at the end of this week. Because they have been in storage with windows open, we have also contracted with a cleaning service to come in and clean them before we get them out to homeowners. We will be bringing them into the Walker Community Center, assigning them to the family based on appropriate size, and then letting you know there's actually, as we've talked to most of the trailer recipients, there's a transfer agreement with the county we'll be asking you to sign. We can't have you do that until we know what trailer you're getting, so we don't have that. And then if you need help getting your trailer to the first location, the county staff will help do that. We're not going to move it after that first time. If you go into a trailer park because your property's not ready, then you're ready to move it to the property later, that move will be on you. part of the email that was sent to all the trailer recipients told each recipient whether or not we had their temporary emergency dwelling or TED permit on file. If you have any questions, that is part of the agreement with the county. We need those back from you before we can process your agreement and before you'll get a trailer. So if you have any questions on that, please let me know. And then just to touch a little bit more on office hours, and some of this has been put in the chat, but I know those watching on Facebook can't read the chat. I'm at the Walker Senior Center between noon and 2 on Mondays and 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. on Thursdays. During those times, community development staff is available. So if we need to call them while you're in there with me, we can do that and connect with them and try and get your questions answered as quickly and as directly as possible.
Hey, Mary, when you're in your during your office hours, do you have access to print forms out for folks?
I don't have access to a printer there. If I know they need something in advance, I can bring some blanks of the forms. The other thing I can do is print it and email it to someone. And I could work with IT and try and get printer access there.
Yeah, so you're in the community center now?
No, I'm in
Or
the
the
senior center.
Senior center, okay. All right. CAO Lawton has his hand up.
Thank you, John, and I apologize for jumping in on the tail end of this and trying to solve problems on the fly. But Mary, if you have an inventory of the kinds of forms that you would most typically be asked for, I'll do my best to get them printed off and brought to you at your next office hours, if that would help. If folks want to fill them out by then.
At this point, I've not been asked for any forms. I did take a couple of right of entry forms last week when we were trying to get the last of those filled out, but we were able to submit that online for the person I was helping that had an appointment. Again, if you have an appointment and it's a specific form, let me know in advance and I can be sure to be prepared for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Beck.
Good evening, everybody. Barry Beck, Mono County Assessor. I have a really short presentation. The only reason I really am here is in case there were any relevant questions for the assessor. From our perspective, there were 109 affected properties that qualified under the guidelines of Section 170, the calamity, and that relates to more than $10,000 in damage. $10,000 in taxable value and damage. Of those 109 affected properties, only 4 have not been processed. So 105 have been processed. The roll corrections are done, and hopefully everyone's received their checks back for their taxes. Just as an informational item, if you have a homeowner's exemption on your property, that remains in effect while you're rebuilding. And if you need anything from our office, we have staff in the office every day in Bridgeport, Monday through Friday. You can call or you can stop by. We'll do what we can. And that's about all I have.
Hey, thank you, Barry. Yeah, and just on a side note, the county, obviously we've had a lot of remote working going on. The assessor's office has remained available in their offices the entire time, and other departments have been assimilating back to more full-time or less remote work. So that's ongoing, sort of an ongoing transition happening right now. But always good to make an appointment, or to not, you might have a different person in Bridgeport for the building department on a Monday, then we'll be on a Wednesday. So if you're expecting to see the same person, give a call, try to make an appointment, but you're certainly welcome to walk in, and whoever is there will do their best to help you. right now, Mary, do we have any questions in the Q&A, or do you see any on Facebook?
We actually have some on Facebook, so I'm going to go through.
Wait a minute, April has her hand up. I don't know if she wants to jump in now and has a question.
I'll just jump in real quick on one more thing I wanted to mention regarding the manufactured homes is that if you were to replace a burnt structure with a not a new but a used manufactured home, the county does have a requirement that that unit be newer than 10 years or newer, and that is essentially, you know, partly related to the WUI and the wildland urban interface and other building codes. So if there's questions about that, we are certainly available, but I just wanted to let people know here on the phone that is a requirement. And again, we're available for questions. So thanks.
Thanks, April.
So the first question I'm going to ask Dina to respond to. There have been a handful of properties that have been deemed to be ineligible for debris removal for a variety of reasons. And the question was asked of what is their recourse, what are their options if they are deemed to be not eligible for the public debris removal program?
So it kind of depends on the circumstance, but there really isn't like an appeal option. So generally, if they've been deemed eligible, it's for a couple of the following reasons. Either the homeowner started debris removal on their property, and they've expanded the ash footprint. The structure may have been deemed ineligible because more than one wall was standing. The state program does not do demolition. For the property, there are some that we can take on a case-by-case basis. I think there's a few, I think in Mono County that were too large for us to do a demolition on. Those are the ones that come to mind. There really isn't an appeals process because there's a pretty standard program that allows us for eligibility. But if there are specific questions, I'm happy to answer those on a more case-by-case basis.
And to add on to that, if you fall into this, or if there are portions of your property that were not eligible, I'm going to use a swimming pool as an example. You can use your debris removal insurance proceeds for that before you turn those proceeds into the county. So you have some resources with which to clean up those things that are not covered by the state program.
Absolutely, Mary. And if you don't mind, if I add to that. So one of the things we like to tell at the beginning of this process is that the state has a fairly defined what's eligible for debris removal in the program and, you know, potentially what's not. So we do encourage homeowners to use their insurance proceeds for items that are not eligible and also eligible for their insurance. Make sure that that's clear. They need to follow the guidelines of whatever their insurance policy is, but to use any available insurance proceeds to remove debris or vegetation prior to, or excuse me, to allow those proceeds to be used for that purpose. So they can maximize the benefit of both available resources, I should say.
And our staff is also working on getting a list of where that debris can be disposed of for the homeowners who are doing this on their own.
Yeah, and this is Lewis. I'll just piggyback on that. For these homeowners that have, you know, these situations where there's some piles of debris or a building that is, you know, it's not eligible, you should contact me and we'll talk about what that entails. I mean, if it's a larger structure, if it's a habitable structure, you will have to enter into the alternative program, which would require the debris to be removed in the same manner that the state's doing. Just the county would be implementing that process. And so I can get you in contact or attempt to get you in contact with potentially with a contractor on site that they might be able to contract with you separately. The ones that are working with the state right now, but they'll have to finish their work, their state program work first. And if they don't have other commitments, then they would potentially be able to contract with you to be able to do some debris removal on your property. So you can contact me separately and we can walk through those details. and I can get you some contact information for those folks. And that's a good starting point anyway.
Next question. I know that community development has been working on a list of the licensed contractors in the area. And I know that, can you update us on the status of that and when that might be available?
Yeah, we're trying to get that out this week. The only contractors left that we're trying to put on there are some more manufactured home contractors. We already have some, but the guy I'm supposed to talk to tomorrow is going to have more of those. And we're also contemplating, back to this concept of the manufacturers being so backed up, contemplating maybe putting some of those contacts on the list too. I think it'd be a good move and we could probably crank that out. But the goal is to get that completed this week and posted by the end of the week.
Thanks, Tom. There was a question about the temporary emergency dwelling. If you recall, last month, the board did extend that time period from 18 months to 36 months to pull a building permit. That has been updated in the FAQs on the Mountain View portal, but the board did approve that. The question has been asked to how do we get notified that their property is given back to the county and cleared to rebuild? So I think there's two parts to that. If you're following the portal that Cal OES has, you can link to it through the county's Mountain View Fire portal. It will tell you if it's at that stage. We actually just got our first ones from the state in the last hour or two today, and we need to figure out what our process is to do our approval and get those back to the homeowners. So we're working on that, and we'll hopefully have answers in the next day or two now that we have some of those parcels to return back to the homeowners. And Louis, I don't know if you were involved in that with the round fire, and I don't know if you have more information on that.
Yeah, I'll follow up with the Cal OES on what that process is. There in the round fire, I met with personnel on site and we walked over the sites and I was shown kind of all the work that was done and I actually signed a document. It's probably a different process now, or there may be a different process. So I'll follow up with Cal OES and see how that's done, how it will be done with this fire, and we can certainly get that information out there.
Great. We have also asked our web team and Justin Capruso to post a link to the Cal OES FAQs on debris removal. It has the explanation about insurance proceeds. I'm sharing this because I know some of the property owners have had issues with a certain insurance adjuster at least saying, no, we can't give you proceeds for other debris removal. We want to make sure that they get the exact same story every time. So we've put that out there, and it's on the Cal OES website, and we're working on getting a link on our portal page for that. Another question, this person has submitted a TED for one of the trailers. Will environmental health be coming out to the property to make sure, what's the process on approving the TEDs? And I think April's been the one most involved, so I'm going to let her start with this one.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. So for a temporary emergency dwelling form or TED, whether that's as part of the LA trailer recipients list, or if you just want to move an RV or a trailer onto your property in the rebuilding, you can contact me. To receive that form, you can also find it on the Mountain View Fire portal. And the things that we'll need are some basic information that includes your address and your assessor parcel number. And then you'll sign the form. It just goes over the criteria for placing a TED on your property. And so that will come to myself for planning. And then in that process, we just need to make sure that water and septic, so basic sanitation, has been addressed through Louis Molina and Environmental Health. And so you can either contact Louis directly, or we can coordinate you and just make sure that those items have been addressed before the trailer is placed on your actual property. Anything you want to add on that, Louis?
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you, April. Yeah, obviously the most, I mean, when we're talking about the septic systems, you got a trailer moving on there, you obviously have to have access to your septic tank. So I think we need to walk through the details. I mean, whether you have a clean out available or whether you need to have one installed so that you can drop your hose into your sewer line that's going to now feed your septic tank. So it had the location where your trailer is going to be, generally speaking, is going to be pretty close to where your house site was. So we have to work through those details, make sure that you're not getting in the way of any of the contractor work that might still be going on out there. So that's one of the details. And then, as far as the water service, obviously, Michael Jones spoke earlier about the temporary electrical hookup and making sure you have power to your well. You're going to need to have that done prior to getting your water back online. You need to have a pump that's functional. So you take care of that electrical work. And you should contact me. And again, contact me. We can go through all the details, but I'll come out there and I'll collect a water sample after you've had your well disinfected. So you'll probably be working with, or you may be working with a pump contractor, or maybe not. Maybe the pump is fine. You just need a electricity supply to it. So again, we can work through your specific situation, but once you have your system hooked up, you should disinfect your well. And I can walk you through that process, and we'll come by. I'll come by there, or my staff, and pick up a water sample before you start drinking that water. So I think that's important. Your well certainly could be contaminated, and you should have that disinfected before you start drinking that water. So those are the two main issues on these TEDs. And really, as we go down the line, it's the same things I'd be dealing with on any new homes that are being constructed as well. But feel free to contact me, and we can talk through any of your specific situations and questions you have on your property.
And I've gotten a question. Somebody did not get the email update on the trailers. It does not mean the trailer list has changed. If you did not get it and we have an email for you, feel free to send me an email. I will send you the update that went out. And then
Mary,
I
have a
don't have any more questions on any of
Okay.
the.
I do. So I've been asked about the requirement for a water tank through the building department. Is there a requirement? And I've heard the size of 1,500 gallons from somebody. I know that the fire department has talked about putting tanks, in various strategic locations throughout the valley. And I did see in an email chain that a 2,200 gallon tank was also discussed, and that may just be a private property's owner's preference. But would there be, with a manufactured home, a different requirement or any requirement for a water tank versus a stick built? And also, while we're addressing water, what about sprinkler systems when it comes to a fire suppression sprinkler system in a manufactured home, whether it be a pre-owned, new, or if in a stick built, it would have a different requirement? These are questions that have been going around the community.
Okay, good questions. So good news for the manufactured home folks. The state does not require residential fire sprinklers in manufactured homes, whether they be new, whether they be existing or otherwise. There's no state requirement for that. And we certainly don't have any local requirements for it. So they get off the hook, so to speak, for sprinklers in a manufactured home. They actually get off the hook for a number of other things like energy code stuff, and in particular solar panels on your roof. They get out of that and more. With regard to water tanks, I'm assuming you're discussing a water tank for fire suppression. That ultimately becomes CAL FIRE's call, because it's all state responsibility area. I want to say the minimum size is 2,500, but I haven't looked that up. 2,500 gallon. It's something they'll be requiring potentially. Jason's been up there a whole lot in recent years. I think it's pretty customary that these tanks go in. That's what I'm used to. So will an existing property that doesn't have that water tank need one? CAL FIRE is going to be invited to play on these reviews for the rebuilds, whether they're manufactured homes or otherwise. And they will be the ones who make that call. And on that note, Supervisor Peters, I think as I start to think of more contacts to put on our contact list or on our fact sheet, I think a few from maybe from CAL FIRE might be worth it because they will have a hand in this.
Okay, so the specific question of how does somebody determine whether or not they need a water tank? And I'm assuming like you are, that it's for fire suppression, that they would need to contact CAL FIRE directly, not the local volunteer fire department or fire district?
Well,
How do people get connected with CAL FIRE? What stage of the process does that happen?
well, here's what I could do. I'm thinking this through a little bit more. I've been meaning to call my guy at CAL FIRE anyway, about another thing or two. I think it'd be a perfect time to tell him what's going on, and I could get that information about water tanks, and perhaps that could be another item on the fact sheet. But it will be CAL FIRE's call with that local for that water tank, more so than a local fire department would. So I'd recommend, what I'll do is I will contact CAL FIRE, put that information on the fact sheet, and also put the CAL FIRE contact numbers on there. And I think hopefully that should give people enough information at the front end to be able to answer that question.
Okay, and April wanted to chime in on this one, and I'm sure once that information's available, Mary Boer will have it and be able to relay it to individual property owners as well as Michael.
That's right. So we have, just to clarify, so there are two questions that Supervisor Peters raised. One was related to fire sprinklers, which is the internal system in your house, and the second was related to on-site water storage tanks. In regards to the water storage tanks, there is not a county requirement for North County. There is in the Wheeler Crest area, but not for North County. However, that doesn't mean that the local fire jurisdiction or CAL FIRE may not require it. And one other caveat that I'll mention is that CAL FIRE is also in the process of, starting to update, standards in the future. So that standard could change in the future, but we will do our best to provide all the updated information from, the fire districts and CAL FIRE on this topic. But there's not a local requirement from the county for water storage.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in really quick too. This is Wendy Sugimura. Thank you for that, April and Tom. So it sounds like Tom will check directly with CAL FIRE as well. Community development staff is very involved in researching the new fire safe standards that are being proposed to be adopted by the state. So we haven't had a chance to dig into that yet. It was just released like a week ago, and we've had other deadlines we've been working on. But once we dig into that, if that seems like it's going to be the case moving forward, we'll start to get that information out, although it does depend on what CAL FIRE ultimately, or the Board of Forestry, State Board of Forestry ultimately adopts for those regulations. But we'll try to provide some clarity about what CAL FIRE would require through Tom's inquiries. And then owners will have, specifically to your question, Supervisor Peters, about how do people get in touch with CAL FIRE? Homeowners would have two choices at that point. You could either just, if CAL FIRE is requiring it, you could just propose it in your building permit plans when those are submitted to us, because we would have to route those plans to CAL FIRE for approval prior to issuance of the building permit anyway. Or you could not propose it if you aren't sure if it's required at this point. You could not propose it, and when we route it to CAL FIRE, if we get responses back from CAL FIRE saying that they require it, then we'll let you know at that time.
Yeah, it's a really difficult, situation for many homeowners because nobody's had to have them. And you're correct, like the Board of Forestry right now, they're in a 40-day comment period for new fire safe standards. And that's a whole nother level of advocacy that's being done at the state level. to address those concerns, because once those are in place, then, wildland or, urban wildland interface areas, all of these new rules that they're going to make can really drive costs up. And I think it's only appropriate that all of the people rebuilding that they know up front, is this something that's covered by their insurance? Is, that all these things that the county might not require, but a special district like the school district or the fire district is going to require. It's as helpful as we can be about getting that information, whether it's the contact information or the actual fact sheet on this is what to expect, will really be helpful. However, we can integrate that into, the information that's being provided. And I know some of that is already out there, but this water tank thing is definitely a question that's current and relevant to the next step. I don't know if it's going to make rebuilding cost prohibitive for some, but we certainly should look at that as who are those contractors that do that? I mean, I don't know anything about it. So thanks for beginning to address this. And I think the more detail we get on that and get it to Mary, we can relay it out to the community. Are there any other questions?
There's one other question in
And Jason
Facebook
has
that's
his hand
related
up, too.
to a particular parcel, so I will forward that to the state and get them an answer directly.
And Jason, you have your hand?
Yeah, Supervisor Peters. Pretty much all of our recent builds, the site plans go through a review process with the local fire jurisdiction, and they're the ones that are providing compliance with the state laws, and almost all of them have required that tank. So people at this point should probably just expect it. Tom's gonna do some research, but unless they get a specific exemption, I would expect it. Just to throw in my 2 cents there.
No, that's really helpful. Thank you for that, Jason. Do we know the size? Because I've heard, like I said, anywhere from
2,200 gallons, I believe, is pretty common.
22.
Yeah, 22 to 25, I believe, is current, but that could change with those new guidelines as well. Like Wendy said, it can require more. So, and really people looking at why they're rebuilding is from wildfire. So it's not one of those things you really want to cut the corners on, as far as protecting yourself from another possible one. So, but anyway, that's all.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, I could see a lot of questions coming out of this question. Where do we put it? How does, but I guess the local fire jurisdiction, the Antelope Valley Fire Department would be a good place for somebody to start if they're looking into that right now, and also including it in your rebuilding plans. Any other questions? And we've gone a little bit beyond, but if everyone's still on and happy to answer any.
There are no more questions.
Okay, well, I want to just thank everybody for, again, participating in our Mountain View Community Workshop number 8. And we do not have a scheduled number 9 one, but we certainly will be having one. And whether it's in a week or 2, we will continue to try to have it on a Monday at 5 p.m. And in between these meetings, obviously you were given a lot of contact info tonight. You know how to get a hold of me, and often getting a hold of me is just, I'm a relay. I'm passing off your concerns to the appropriate departments, but reach out directly to them as well. And Mary, of course, is the on-site person twice a week, as you all know. So thank you very much. Thank you, Dina, and from the state, and the CAO, and Justin from the EOC. And you'll have an opportunity tomorrow at the Board of Supervisors meeting to also engage on the Mountain View Fire and get another update, as well as Thursday night at the Antelope Valley RPAC, which I believe is at 6:30. And so there's a couple more bites at the apple, so to speak, this week. And everyone be safe and enjoy this beautiful weather. Thank you and have a good night.
Right.
Thank you, everyone.